And welcome everyone. I would like to have a drum roll, but because of our production value, maybe just ask Red and Hirsch. I don't know how much it is. We don't have that, but we do have two really exciting casters and to add really exciting match for today for the grand finals for the last match of the season between two teams that I feel like not a lot of people actually expected to see today, but they were through everything to get to this point of the finals. I'm TDS. I have been a couple of times here next to me. I don't. Yeah, there. It's
Yeah,
Aikado. He has been here as well. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm excited. I'm incredibly excited. We have a couple of incredibly strong teams who've been playing really high level LOR, and after it's sort of the pinnacle of, what, like 10 weeks of play here.
Yeah.
Teams are coming together here in the finals. So it'll be really exciting. I'm very excited for tonight.
Yeah, it was a long journey to say the least. Like through thick and thin, through a lot of weeks, through a lot of ups and downs, because these teams weren't necessarily the strongest teams that we saw at the start. Like they had to take a long journey and quite a stressful one, in my opinion, because they were not considered the strongest, but they showcased really good playing, really good strategies, really good ideas to how they should tackle some of the matches, and at the end, they were able to go towards the grand finals. And for that alone, like that is so much of a merit because in a season like this, in a format that I feel like we haven't seen a lot previously, to not say we haven't seen it at all, like it's not easy, and being able to perform like they did, it's something really amazing to see from these players.
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like it's two very different stories as far as these teams go. They both came from the same group, but I think coming into the league, Beautiful Gamers were one of the teams that I think a lot of people expected to do incredibly well. Some of the biggest names in the scene. They have What Am I? They have Shodok,
Yeah.
Cephalopod, and then Henneke, like incredibly good, strong players. But during their group, they ended up going 8-8. They ended up, sliding out in like the third or fourth seed there. Whereas Stromboli in the same group was a bunch of people that I don't think anybody really expected to do that well. Not a whole lot of recognizable faces if you're looking at, just like the high level competitive LOR scene. But, obviously they've shown that they belong here, right? They've beaten
Yeah.
incredibly strong teams along the way. And, they ended up coming out at the top of their group, weirdly enough. And now they're meeting again in the finals. It's a really interesting fight, just because of the different trajectories that each of these teams have had.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting way of putting it, and I'm lacking on the word for some reason. But yeah, the stories of both teams are quite different because from one side you can actually see like the actual underdog team from the side of Stromboli because not much was expected. Like you're pointing out players that weren't really known, players that were coming into this as unknowns, but that maybe we could see potential. So the underdogs coming in from the side of Beautiful Gamers, like yes, they may have had a rocky time coming here, but everyone knew what they were capable of. Some people were, some of these players are really well known. They are capable of showcasing really nice performances, and I think they are closely towards what you would consider a dark horse. Like not the immediate favorite, but certainly players that you have to keep in mind 100%. And looking now at the lineups, like we know Stromboli Gaming, we have seen them. Is it Stromboli Prince, Janspers, and Aichi? For people that don't know yet, just in case if you haven't followed us until the grand finals, this is the order that the players will play. So it's in Stromboli Prince first, and if he loses, it's going to continue from Jan Sports and then Aichi.
Which is pretty interesting. I feel like Aichi, especially, has been such a workhorse for this team, especially in the playoffs, has been picking up so many incredibly valuable wins from the first position, really setting their team up for success. But this time around, sort of swapped it. Stromboli Prince up first, trying to get Stromboli ahead. And then Aichi gonna be running anchor here. If it comes down to it, they'll be the one trying to close it all out. I'm really excited. These are again people that we didn't know a lot about coming in, I
Yeah.
don't think, but at this point, like I think that they sort of have a storied history, especially the last few weeks of just being incredibly strong players.
Yeah, 100%. And like you're pointing out, like even though this is not the typical formation that we have seen from them, I feel like throwing a Stromboli Prince at the start really makes me think that they want to close this out as soon as possible. It is still an interesting showing that these players have gone through. Like each of the players has had to play at least once, especially after last week that it was just a 3-2 from both sides. Like each of the players had to play and try and keep their teams in. So we know that these players are capable of at least putting the pressure on their shoulders to try and perform and to try and take the win for their team, which I think it's a really important advantage to have, especially coming into the finals because we don't know what may end up happening. Finals are, in my opinion, a whole other level. Like it's not just their normal match. Some teams are better prepared, some teams are not as prepared, and you really cannot just depend on being a good player. You actually the day actually matters quite a lot for some of these players coming into grand finals.
Yeah, and speaking of the other players, let's go ahead and check out Beautiful Gamers. Again, some of the most storied names, I think, in the entire Legends of Runeterra competitive scene. We have Shodox, What Am I, and then Cephalopod. Looks like Henneke is going to be hanging out on the bench this week, but all incredibly strong players. And an interesting ordering here where it feels like what am I especially has been just such for if the workhorse for Stromboli has been Aichi, what am I has sort of been just the absolute the wall that just holds up beautiful gamers. Is just so incredibly strong, is able to pick up wins every single week. So gonna be coming in second, Shodox first, and then Cephalopod gonna be that anchor, of course.
Yeah, and I'm kind of interested with the difference here from between Battlefield Gamers and Stromboli with the place with What Am I and the place for Aichi. Because one is going towards the last member, the pretty much last hope that you have, and the other is kind of in the middle, trying to kind of balance things out. And I think that that difference may come in play really effectively because what am I being the kind of player that you have been talking about being the workhorse or the workforce, not workhorse, the workforce in their team, then at the second to try and balance things out if something goes really badly, I think that can work much more effectively. Meanwhile, if you throw the Aichi on the end, I feel like it can be much more risky because he doesn't really have room to play around. Like if he loses, it's done. So I feel like that's a little bit more risky to that kind of player that is your workforce.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to track that and see how they end up doing. But even if you end up going to third place, Cephalopod is, if you check out his Twitch page, he has a list of all of the tournaments that he's won, and there's like over 100 grassroots tournaments that this man has placed or won at. There are no weaklings on Beautiful Gamers when it
Yeah.
really comes down to it. They're all incredibly strong.
Yeah, they are certainly like you can really depend on the players to be able to present themselves on the day. And speaking about beautiful gamers, we have decks that we want to highlight, but this particularly you want to take, right?
Yeah, so this is the deck list for Shodox. They ended up bringing Akshan Zillion. Now, people who have been playing, competitively for a while may recognize this as the infinite combo deck that was lovingly named Eggs in reference to a in reference to a Magic deck. But this is the new version of it. This is a deck that is very intent on going infinite on turn 6, on turn 7, and just absolutely punishing any deck that isn't just blazingly fast. And Shodox is sort of known for this deck. Shodox, notably ended up taking down a DreamHack tournament with this exact deck. A few cards different, of course, but definitely one of the main people known for this deck, and now bringing it out here in the finals. It's going to be really interesting to track. This is the type of deck that if your opponent brings incredibly aggressive decks, you're going to have a hard time winning with this. But if your opponent is slow at all, this deck does not mess around and absolutely will punish it.
Yeah, this deck has some good answers, and just as we have seen the deck list from them or the potential matchups that some of these players have, like this deck can answer really, really effectively towards some of these decks. And we're talking about just the potential from this deck and the next one that we're going to see to just get completely banned, which now we're going to put into it. It's another derivation of the Cillian version, but this is with the Cillian Echo. Really dependent on being able to use the predictions, predict as much as possible, and get the value of the Cillian Echo. Still, it's going to be that kind of a slow controlled deck that can answer really well towards a slow kind of play. And I feel like, in comparison to the other one, this may be a little more focused on towards being able to get the kill towards the Nexus as soon as possible, much more so than killing the units, just going towards the Nexus and trying to kill it down through that.
Yeah, Zillion Echo is sort of known for being like the anti-aggro aggro, which is to say it's very good against other aggro decks, but has a lot of time against something that's go a little bit bigger. Things like Pantheon or stuff like Ionia that has like Notify and Deny. But especially with this newer build, with the Voice of the Risen sort of attack added by Scathus, a pretty strong deck builder, has made this deck a lot stronger and a lot more resilient nowadays than it was a couple months ago. And Stromboli Prince bringing this out in the first round is going to be incredibly exciting. This is the sort of deck that can snowball incredibly hard. You know, if you get your flipped Echo on turn 4, maybe you high roll a Crystal, maybe you high roll the Rally, and you just instantly win the game. And, you know, who would have guessed, you know, if you told me that we are going to see the Zillion versus Zillion finals, I would have been, you know, very surprised at that. But both of these are pretty strong decks that have places within the meta, and I'm excited to see them clash.
Yeah, I feel like we may like this will be an interesting finals just because of how this new kind of deck that we haven't seen quite as much, maybe last week, but not much recently, or not much in the whole season. It's going to be interesting how it impacts the both teams. But I feel overall that we're potentially not going to see it much. I think that either team is going to ban it away because I feel like it can have so much of a threat in comparison to some other decks. So I just don't think that we will potentially see it. But now we have the pick and ban phase for the first match of the grand finals. It's Shadows against Stromboli Prince, like we mentioned previously. And just looking at the overall potential for bans, I think that we may not see the Cillian Echo from Stromboli Prince. I think that it's going to get banned.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what they decide to ban. I think that a lot of this series is going to revolve around this darkness deck. Weirdly enough, this is an incredibly strong deck, sort of been sitting at the bottom of tier 1 for several months now. But looking at the decks that Shadox brought, that first one being Bandle Tree, the second one being the Akshan Infinite combo, and the third one being Thralls, Darkness has a very hard time winning into any of those decks. And I think that a lot of this series right here is going to come down to, is Stromboli Prince going to be able to sneak Darkness by? And if so, what matchup are they going to end up sneaking it by? You know, what are you deciding? Is it going to be Tree? Are you just going to hope that your opponent never draws Tree? Are you going to try and high roll the Infinite combo? You know, maybe they just never hit Akshan. Or I mean, you could try to high roll Thralls, but that one's really hard. And it's actually the infinite
Yeah,
combo getting banned out by Stromboli Prince deciding that they don't want to have to deal with it. That's not the one that they want to try and high roll. And you know, an interesting approach here. Shotox gets a or not a free ban, but gets the ban on the infinite.
I don't like hitting these kind of things where the newer decks just or the decks that seem so fun to potentially see get banned away because they are going to be potentially new. But yeah, it's the Cillian action, and I kind of understand. I feel like the darkness potentially can work a little bit better against the Bandle tree in this circumstance because even though you really kind of scared about the potential of the Bandle tree, like at least with the darkness, I can see the potential darkness just being able to kill those much more weaker units and try and get the better out of that. Like I at least can kind of see if you really want to play the darkness against that.
Yeah, it's hard because in this matchup, usually Darkness is just a little bit too slow at stacking up their Darkness damage. That you know, if Thralls is able to get 2 or 3 Thralls out by like turn 7, they're incredibly favored, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at the stats on it, um, here I'm pulling those up right now. At least on ladder, Darkness has a 33% win rate
Uh,
into the Lissandra Talia deck. It's incredibly bad,
yeah.
right? Um, Whereas, the tree deck is also similarly a very low win rate, and it's definitely gonna be a hard, uh, task here for Stromboli Prince to pick up a win. It looks like Shotox ended up going with the Scouts ban, um, potentially trying to protect Thralls. I think that Thralls usually has trouble with the, low to the ground Demacia decks that, you know, can rally on you on turn 5 and really threaten lethal there, but,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, Tree and Thralls versus Echo Zillion versus in Darkness. Ooh, it's a lot of matchups that we haven't seen much of at all this season. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, we're in for a potentially slow fest with this kind of decks, but like you're pointing out, like it's not matchups that are that common, and I feel like the way that both of these players can will play around this can really set the tone for the finals. Because I think that if Stromboli Prince is able to pull it off here, like looking into the next matchup, you do have to be careful about what can Stromboli Prince bring out. Because if he can win with both of these decks, then you really have to consider you don't want to ban either of these away and try and live up the I don't know why I'm blanking on the name, the Misfortune Queen deck.
Yeah. This
But at the same time, it's not the greatest thing because a lot of the decks that we saw are kind of slow, and the Misfortune Queen deck can take advantage of those.
Definitely the case. And I mean, just looking at a matchup table. I just pulled that up for Bandletree versus Darkness. 33% was Darkness's win rate into Thralls. 36% into Bandletree, so slightly better.
Yeah,
Um,
3%, right?
yeah, that's it matters. It matters. They can high roll it.
Yeah. I feel like if you're going to take a bet, you take the highest bet. Like even if it's 3% higher, it's better than being 3% lower. So I feel like that's what you have to play around. But it is going to be a tough matchup. And just looking at the start of the decks, it's going to be the Thralls against. We're waiting to see the card. So uh,
It
uh,
looks like it is
it's
Thralls
Lee.
against the Echo Zillion,
Yeah.
so Echo Zillion is a pretty aggressive deck. It can get out to some pretty strong starts, if they hit the right cards on it. But a couple predicts usually in your opening hand are pretty good, but Double Absolver is not really the opening hand that I think you're hoping for if you're Stromboli Prince. It's not really doing that much. You aren't applying a ton of pressure, whereas Shadox has the Thrall on one, is about to throw down another Thrall on two, has a couple doublers in hand as well. This is a pretty good hand for Shadox. As long as he isn't getting ultra smurked down in the next couple turns, I think he should be feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I quite like the start for Shadows, like you're pointing out. Like getting those thralls earlier on, it's going to be so valuable. Even getting the countdown down, so to a start early on, like this chip damage is not going to be that bad. And Stromboli Prince, oh, he's actually blocking. I thought you just take the chip damage, but it's fine. I think.
Yeah, in this instance, the clock hit is probably always going to end up, or the little clockling is probably always going to end up trading into the cat. So you might as well take that trade now. But now you have a Thrall with 4 on the countdown. You're going to be doubling it next turn with the promising future, and then Talia again on the following turn, and you're definitely set. Ooh, and imagine possibilities, meaning that we can take it down as well. And
Yeah,
on our next token, we'll end up having 4 Thralls. This is an okay start. Oh, interesting.
actually,
The
the
open
past one.
pass.
Just thinking about the potential, like the thing is, I can kind of see maybe just wanting to hold yourself in case something gets pulled out, but kind of interesting seeing the pass. Not really thinking that there's a lot of risk right there.
Yeah, so Stromboli Prince obviously doesn't want to throw the Echo out, right? That's what they're
Yeah.
saying, is that they don't want to throw Echo out into, some kind of a freeze. If they had thrown it out into this Succumb the Cold, that would have felt pretty bad. But Shotox, I think, is just so far ahead at this point that they're willing to take a little bit of damage, give you a little bit of draw in exchange for just accelerating this win condition, getting that doubler down onto the Thrall, and then a second Thrall thrown out as well, just in case, just as insurance, in case the first 4 Thralls aren't
Wasn't
enough.
enough. Yeah. Well, the Cillian, pulling Cillian here may be nice. I think he went for the Cillian. Yeah, like getting the Cillian here to add up to that Echo, getting predicts and all that, it's going to be so valuable. But now even Shadow's just getting even the Avalanche in case something bad happens to him and he needs to clear a lot. Like just secures himself in a really nice spot.
Yeah, and with the second doubler coming down, it's worth pointing out that Stromboli Prince has had just an absolutely miserable hand here. The double buff in the opening hand, followed up by top decking Quicksand twice in a row, just hasn't really done a whole lot, and frankly, isn't doing enough. You aren't accelerating the game quickly enough, and Shotox is going to have a ton of thralls bearing down on you on your next token, so you need to get something done literally right now. But Shotox is going to end up taking down the thralls right now, meaning that even on your defensive turn, he has those 4 thralls just protecting him, and this one's a little rough. It's a little rough.
Yeah, the start from, like you're pointing out, the start from Stromboli Prince just feels so hard to play around, especially because you cannot begin playing around your recondition with the Echo. And then instead, in comparison, Shadox just gets so much draws out. Already having 4 8 draws, like that's such a huge defense and attack potential in the next turn.
Definitely a rough position here to be in for the Stromboli Prince. Ends up getting the time trick off the top, means that we get to draw a card, we get to flip our Echo. So we are generating free time tricks every single time that Echo strikes. So it could be valuable, maybe enough to keep us around for a little while, but we do see the double freeze in the hand of Shodox. So this, even with that, this Echo's not really going to be doing much. Not going to be able to get much done.
Yeah, maybe he will try to play around the two absolvers that he has in hand, but even with that, like it just feels so hard to try and get the best out of this Echo.
Yeah, the attack being lined up here by Stromboli Prince. Echo, of course, has quick attack, so with a couple of these absolvers, we'll be able to beat over a Thrall. But swinging into the freeze would feel pretty bad. The issue is you kind of have to. You kind of have to swing into this freeze and just hope that your opponent doesn't have it. Because at this point, you're getting swung at with like so much overwhelm damage that there's just not a lot you can do. You have to commit the double absolver here. You're gonna get frozen. You're gonna cry. I mean, that's just, it is what it is.
Yeah, it ends up with you're gonna cry, more than likely. But yeah, that's the kind of bet that you have to go for this kind of instances.
Yeah, not a whole lot to be done about it. You kind of just have to go for it and then be really sad when it doesn't work out. Shodox just
Yeah,
deciding which of the freezes to use goes with the Succumb the Cold here. Three Sisters has a little bit more utility on the next turn. Interesting position here for Stromboli Prince. You commit the Absolver just to draw one card. It looks like the answer is going to be no, but I mean, it's 32 points of overwhelm. It's scary.
yeah, I feel like we're just preluding the inevitable end already.
If your prediction is correct, we have much to look forward
I
to.
mean, double quicksand technically keeps us alive, I think. I'm pretty sure double quicksand technically keeps us alive.
My main question here would be if protecting now and surviving here can give us the opportunity for the next turn to get something done. It's kind of the thing
No.
that I'm trying to look around. Yeah, because
The answer
if
is
the answer
no,
is no,
but
it just looks so hard, so doomed.
it
I
keeps
mean,
us alive here, that's something, right?
but that is true. Like it's a start. It certainly it's the best way to start, not dying.
Yeah, if there were a way to win from this position, not dying this turn is the best first step, right?
Yep.
After that, it's it's an uphill battle, right? Maybe. Okay, here's what we do. We just took a time bomb off the top, right? So we're gonna time bomb and then draw like a time trick. Then we time trick and end up picking up like double cat crystal. And it still doesn't work. It's close though, right?
It's
Double cat
almost
crystal
working out.
and a time bomb? Okay. Chaining time bombs?
Okay.
Now we need like a time trick into double cat crystal. Come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Aw, Sag.
Yeah, if he could have gotten what he wanted out of that draw, then maybe we could have seen a miraculous comeback. But yeah, the thralls being set up like that, so much like we pointed out this, it was the prelude to the end so early on with how well the start of the hand was for Shadow. Like it was so well how he got everything that he needed at the start, and then he piloted like he.
Yeah, no, it's just such a great hand from Shodox, and then just an awful, awful hand from Stromboli Prince. Just
Yeah.
not anything that they wanted. They really need to accelerate that matchup, and it just did not work out. But we get to see this time the run back of the Echo Zillion, and this time into the Bandle Tree. Not a matchup that I'm ultra familiar with, but it feels like there's probably a lot of play on both sides here.
Yeah, I feel like at least this time around you're not going to worry about that super huge front row potential attack from the thrall, so I can at least see much better preparation and way of playing from Stromboli Prince.
Yeah, we'll see. It is the cannon in hand for Shodox. We already have the Ionia and the Bando, so that's 2 out of 10 down. Will you help me keep track of it? We'll see how
Yeah, I'll
quickly
keep the
Shodox
count.
is able
Yeah,
to get to 10.
I'll keep the count on it. Hopefully, I don't get distracted by something and forget.
Yeah, every single time that I try to cast Tree, I start out like, okay, I'll pay attention to it, I'll watch for it, we'll know But then by like turn 5, it's like, okay, did we play this region? I don't remember.
Yeah, I feel like it's just an occurrence on this cast. Like almost every time we try to keep up with it, we kind of always fail. But it's fine.
Yeah.
We always are
Ooh,
close enough.
Starlit Epiphany? Pog? I think Crescent Strike is probably just like hands down the best selection, with like Minion being a close second. But Starlit Epiphany is the funniest selection, right? And that's sometimes there's value in that.
Yeah, we like it's would you get enough value out of a started epiphany? Because I feel like you just get it much more with the crescent strike. I can see the started epiphany, but I just think like crescent strike is the overall
This
best.
is
Yeah.
my time.
Yeah, Crescent Strike to deny a little bit of value on a rally turn. It can deny Echo from getting a swing in. There's a lot that you get out of it. It's a very, very strong card in this instance. Oh, Aloof? Aloof? Does that always hit Echo? Let me look at the list. Because if so, that's kind of an insane hit. I suppose it's like 50-50 between hitting Echo and Voice of the Risen.
Much to look forward to.
I think it's
Yeah,
a good
Echo,
enough
Voice
bet.
of
Yeah.
Risen, and Rite of Negation. But I think that you're happy milling any of those. This
Yeah.
Aloof is actually such good value in the hand of Shotox.
As of now, like as of now, Shadows I feel having a really nice hand to try and prevent not only dying,
It ain't my
but
favorite
try and
time
play
traveling
around
genius punk
the fact
buddy.
that you still
Well, I'd
need
be
to get
weirded out
those
if I wasn't.
the other regions for the bandle tree.
Yeah, definitely the case here. The Echo does end up coming down, so not going to be hit by that Aloof. We'll see what Shotox decides to do. The predict in hand from Stromboli Prince will end up flipping this Echo, but we do just see the full cost Buster, Buster Shot going to be put on the stack here and end up taking down the Echo. We are going to see the Shifting Sands played out here just to flip that Echo, get the Chrono Break shuffled in, but this will be a dead Echo, and being able to kill Echo on sight is incredibly important for slowing down this Echo Zillion deck and denying them from really going off and getting their game plan rolling.
Yeah, I feel like in the previous game, that was one of the important things as well. Just getting rid of the echo overall, even if it was easier than maybe we would have expected. Like it was still important, and getting rid of it once again, it's going to find so much value for Shadow.
Yeah. Let's see, Stromboli Prince, their hand a little bit less good now. But Shotox is at 3 on the Bandle Tree. House Spider's going to be 4 and 5.
Yeah,
And then either Poppy or the Aloof is going to end up being 6. So pretty quick Bandle Tree here, honestly.
Yeah, and already having it in hand. Like one of the things that I think we always mention here with Dom, that's sadly not here, it's getting the bandle tree on hand as soon as you can. Like obviously it's kind of a luck kind of thing, but getting it as soon as possible just nets yourself a much easier time getting the win later on. And now that he has it already, like with the amount of regions that already has been put out in the board for Shadows, like it's going to be much easier to be able to get towards that point.
I do like, though, that we decided to go with the Poppy. Poppy, being able to get one big buff off on this board is going to be so huge to make sure that all of your units are going to be able to trade better. And most importantly,
Listen to me.
if you can force trades this turn, this is a turn where Stromboli Prince does not have access to the Chrono Break, doesn't have the mana for it. So you know that the stuff that you're killing right now will stay dead, which is not always the case against this Echo Zillion deck and really makes it an incredibly scary deck to play against. So being able to get not only that big buff off, but being able to trade down the board as well is just so valuable for Shotox.
Yep. Yeah, finding the amount of value that Shadows has been able to find, it's so good. And still, Noeko has been coming once again. It's still really nice for the side of Shadows. I feel like still like the puppy getting pulled out here is so good, not only because of the fact that you, like you're pointing out, you get the extra buff for some of the units that you had previously, but you also had the extra puppy anyway. So like you can even sacrifice it in case something bad goes like that, and you can just put it out again next turn.
Ooh, and the Voice of the Risen going to come out. It's a little bit scary, but honestly, I kind of like just poppy spelling this Voice of the Risen. Just send it back to the top of the deck. It completely neuters this attack from Stromboli Prince. You know that you're breaking their next draw. You could just play down Banner Tree next turn. I feel like this is actually such a good opportunity for it if Shodox sees the line, decides to just pass, played a little bit more safely than that. But it would have been an interesting line. Stromboli Prince is going to end up just passing it back as well.
Neither risking it much. Like trying to play around the win conditions, but not risking it as much as possible. And
Oh,
there
a
goes the
loop.
loop piece.
Actually hitting the Zillion spell is so huge because Stromboli Prince basically gets a free draw. The Zillion spell is definitely bricked in hand, especially in this situation. So, being able to sort of unbrick it is actually so valuable for the Prince here.
Yeah, actually making Stromboli Prince find a little bit of value. It's still not in the best of situations in my opinion, but getting slowly there. Like he's still getting towards that point of getting the predictions, getting the card value towards your potential strongest point with the Echo later on.
Yeah. But Shodox did end up playing out number 7 with the PNZ from Aloof Travelers. Fizz in hand is number 8. Just missing out on Freljord and
Did you already go Shurima just in case I'm not blanking on it?
I don't think I've seen Shurima.
So
I
it
think
will
it's
be
Shurima Freljord. I think. That sounds right to me. Shurima Freljord.
Yeah, it feels like it's like that. Feels like that.
But the swing in is actually kind of bad for Shodox, just because the time bomb hit off of the time trick from Stromboli Prince means that he's going to be able to just trade this entire board down. Now, keep in mind, there is still another Poppy, there's a House Spider, there's a Fizz, there is a lot of redevelop here for Shodox, so still a favorable trade, but losing your board is always a little bit scary here.
Yeah, it's kind of my feeling with this would be if it's necessary to take it, right? Like, do you actually need to go for this kind of attack here?
The end of the world, you get the extra Poppy buff, which feels pretty good, and you are threatening flipping the Poppy, but the mini morph coming out onto the Voice of the Risen is going to get rid of all the buffs that were creating these favorable trades for Stromboli Prince, and now it's disaster. You've lost your entire board. You have just a Time Bomb and a Dream. What's the top deck? Barrel Prescience lets you decide what you're going to draw from the Time Bomb, but none of those look like good options to me.
Yeah.
We're gonna Time Bomb. Hopefully we chain into another Time Bomb here. Time Bomb?
No.
Voices
No.
of the Risen doesn't quite get us there, and the tree comes down as well, and suddenly this is just an awful position to be in for Stromboli Prince. You put him first trying to pick up a good win, being able to get your team ahead, but instead you're staring down a flip Poppy, you're staring down a Bandle Tree at 9 out of 10,
Yeah.
and you have no cards in hand.
This is one of the hardest. Yeah, he's like this was one of the harshest spots to be as a Stromboli Prince. Like he tried to play it around that, but the answers from Shadox once again being really good. Like playing around the potential from the Bandle Tree, playing around the 9V Echo Swordiana. We talked about this. That Echo kill really meant quite a lot to get the board presence and the board value into the favor of Shadox.
Yeah, just killing Echo on site means that Echo Zillion deck is so much slower. It isn't able to get
Yep.
the ball rolling. You just completely gut their value before it can start. And then just the line there from Shodox to see the mini morph onto the Voice of Risen just get so many favorable trades. And, after a couple rough games out of the Echo Zillion, Stromboli Prince ends up dropping. And now Beautiful Gamers is up 1-0 in the series.
Kind of surprising. I thought Stromboli Prince would have been, or not. I don't want to say put in a better match because it was kind of hard with him, especially with the decks that he was trying to play around with, and we didn't even get a chance to see the darkness. But Shadow's just playing it so much better, and this is the kind of thing that I expect a little bit from finals. Just maybe players that we previously saw performing super well or being able to take it out to make so much damage, not being able to appear because the finals is a whole different level. But still, really nice match between the two. 1-0 going in favor of the Beautiful Gamers. I think we're going to a quick break before the next match. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back really
I breaking through? Will you feel me too? I still wanna run to you. Am I breaking through?
And we're back for game two of the grand final series between Beautiful Gamers and Stromboli Gaming. And after the first match, like it felt kind of sooner than it probably would have need to end. I think that Stromboli didn't have the chance to really showcase his everything, but at the same time, Shadow's playing super well, giving his team the 1-0 and putting himself now against Jan Sports for the second match. Looking at the text, you're saying we're talking a little bit before coming back into on the air, and we talked about that Jansbergs with the lineup that he has a better potential chance now.
Yeah, I think that just taking a peek at, we're pretty familiar with Shodox's lineup, right? We
Yeah,
just saw it. They're running the infinite combo, Thralls and Tree. I think that the big difference between Jansport's lineup and what Stromboli Prince had was that Jansports has a lot more aggressively slanted decks. His very proactive decks in the Pirates, in the Ari Lulu, and even the Iceborne Spiders is able to really put the gas on. I think it's gonna be a lot more difficult for Shodox to end up getting through this game with the infinite combo, just because again it's a type of deck that sort of folds to any amount of aggression, and there's definitely a lot more aggression on the side of Jansports than we saw from Stromboli Prince's lineup.
yeah, like just the way you're pointing it out, it feels like it's a little bit harder to just immediately ban out Jansports because there's so much aggressive potential from the side of Jansports that banning one out doesn't necessarily means that you're going to escape that aggressiveness. So it's going to be a little bit harder for Shadows. I think that we may see Pirates once again being the one that gets taken away. But at the same time, like I wouldn't want to face against any of these decks, especially with the control and the amount of time that some of the decks that Shadows has would take, to not say all the day.
Yeah. I think it's going to be either the Pirates ban or the Ari Lulu ban. I think that Iceborne Spiders, this Elise Kindred deck, is sort of your best shot. You sort of hope that they just like draw really poorly and you draw really well and you just can kind of slide past them. Um, but these other two decks should be, I think, very favored into Akshan Zillion, and then even have pretty good shots into Tree and into Thralls. I didn't realize until right now, but it's kind of the triple landmark win condition lineup here from Shodox. The infinite combo relies on duping the Akshan landmark. Tree of
Yep.
course relies on Tree, and then Thralls on the Thrall landmark. I like the cohesiveness between these lineups here. You
There's
really,
a theme.
you, yeah. It's the role play aspect.
Yeah, at least he has that going for him. Now, looking at Jansports getting the Pirates Man away, like we talked about, we think that this is potentially one of the riskier decks that you can face, and the other two seem to have better opportunity to go against it, like against the other two. So, as Jansports, would you be okay banning away the Banditry? Like, would that be your main option to ban away?
It's probably Tree. I'm just trying to think of how your Iceborne Spiders ends up winning a game, and I think it probably has a slightly better shot into Thralls. Um, but it's really hard to say. I don't know enough about these matchups. Again, Shodox sort of bringing some off the wall decks that I'm not ultra familiar with the matchup tables for. Other than the Infinite. I was a big fan of the Infinite when it was around. Um, but yeah, it's hard to say what the correct ban is. I think that looking at the stats, it's probably a tree ban, but it's really hard to say. It just kind of depends on how comfortable Jansports is in these matchups and with these decks.
Yeah, this is also a situation that I feel like is kind of peculiar from grand finals where it's better to go against what you feel comfortable than what it's just statistically better. Like statistically speaking, it's probably going to work out better in the long run. But grand finals are such a determined thing that it's better to just not play against something that you really don't want to play against. It ends up being
Ooh.
banditry, so you are completely right. It's probably going to be better for him banning away the banditry, but now we're going to get both thralls and the infinite deck. And I'm kind of interested in seeing how Shadows plays this because I think I made this point previously, but I'm not sure if it was on air or not. I think that if Shadows is able to take this one away, like the next matchup, the last one against Aichi, I feel like there's a little bit of similarity with the deck. So I feel like if Shadox takes this, he should be on point to be able to take the whole thing.
Yeah, it's definitely a worry for Stromboli. I think if you end up dropping this game, Shodox has a pretty good shot of just abusing, like one of the decks out of Aichi and just taking complete control of it and able to take down the whole series from that. Um, but it's hard to say. It's really hard to say how
Yeah,
that'll end up going down just because Shodox definitely has an uphill battle in this matchup, right? And if they're
yeah.
able to make it through, then yeah, they're definitely poised to be able to take down the whole thing 3-0.
Well, actually, kind of similar to how it was previously with the Stromboli Prince, right? Like, even though we know what he's capable of, like his decks were not best suited against what Shadox was bringing or what Shadox could potentially use. This is kind of the similar situation now with Shadox against Jansports, where his decks probably are not the best suited towards the decks that Jansport had, but there's a still chance. Like he can showcase good enough things to maybe pull him forward and be able to take this.
Yeah, definitely a possibility. We are playing, at the end of the day, we're playing card games. So even in favored matchups, a lot of times if the cards just don't land properly, or if your opponent plays a lot better than you, sometimes you still aren't able to take it down. But Shodox ends up queuing up the infinite combo first into the Elise Kindred. And we see an Akshan in hand for Shodox and an Iceborne Legacy in hand for Jansports. Both of these players already getting, I think, sort of the starts that they want with these decks, very, very much hitting their combo pieces.
Yeah, honestly, pretty good starts for both players. Already even setting up the action for a potential attack. I really like getting the action out as soon as possible. This is something that I always mention with the Warlord's deck with the Sivir and the action. It's great if you can always set up the action first, and if you can get it out as soon as possible. Because even though Sivir is a lot of that combo, like the action value is so high, and I feel like it's kind of the same, close to a same situation here, where you really want to get your action as soon as possible.
Probably even more so just because your deck genuinely does not function without Akshan. If Akshan does not level and does not come out, then it's literally impossible for you to win a game. It just actually is. So being able to get the Akshan on too is just so incredibly valuable and is such a great start here for Shodox. It feels like they're definitely in a pretty good position here.
Yeah. Even setting up just potentially great for the Cillian that's
Oh,
already on hand. Getting the level up so soon as well. Wow.
yeah, that is a flipped auction on turn 4. The Godwillow coming down onto the Vicorum Vagabond. That's the way that works is the target from the Godwillow ticks down the auction landmark 1. And then, of course, the replaying of the Vanguard takes it down the other 2. So 3 in 1 action is pretty quick, pretty impressive. And
What value?
we'll see. Yeah, already well on their way. Now, the way that this works is we need to find a doubler. Oh my god. He skipped into the promising future. Oh my god, it's not fair. It's
Yeah,
actually just
Shadox
not
is doing
fair.
something. Shadox is onto something. Today he has gotten so many good draws that it's kind of surprising.
Yeah, to be fair though, on the other side, Jansports does have a board 6 wide with these spiders and an Iceborne Legacy in hand, so is threatening quite a bit of damage here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we see the pre-commitment of the Iceborne Legacy, and that's a little bit of damage, 12 plus 9, 21. I mean, that's a reasonable amount of damage, right?
Yeah, like that certainly should be like in normal cases that should be good enough to just not only threaten but force other spells to try and stop this attack from coming through. In this situation, at least there's going to be a good answer for Shadox, but it's still going to be a lot of damage that Shadox has to eat this turn.
A lot of damage, and it makes it really difficult to see a way for him to make it through the next token, but he has all the pieces of the combo in hand. I think that's the really important thing here is that he is sort of poised to be able to just go off next turn and win the game. If we play Akshan this turn, if we just like play out Akshan, it goes down to 4. We burst out the monk, and it goes, we can replay, it goes down to 3, 2. It's really close. It's really close to being able to pop this landmark. And honestly, at this point, with the board that Jansports has, you kind of have to win the game next turn if you're Shodox.
Yeah,
And honestly, I think you might be able to do it. I think that we might be looking at going infinite on turn 6.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising the speed that Shadows has gotten with this deck being a little bit later on that, but kind of forced into the situation because of the draws and also because of what Jansports has done already on his board.
Yeah, Jin Sports had an incredibly aggressive and incredibly strong opening hand this time around, so it's definitely a difficult position. So we do Conspirator. Conspirator takes it down to 3. Replaying Akshan puts it down to 2, which means that at the turn it goes down to 1, so any target is going to flip it. And at that point, we have enough. Oh, Sonic Wave's going to do it. We have enough that we can just cycle the Conspirators. So we actually might just be infinite right here. It's going to be a little bit sus. It's going to be a little bit sketchy to see if Shodox will be able to actually go infinite here. But, ooh, this one's close. This one's really close.
Yeah.
Because if you end turn, if Jansports gets another chance at the token, you're dead, right? You just have
Yeah,
to be dead.
that's it. Like the that's why Shadows needs to be able to pull it off in this one. But he has the resources. Like you pointed this out, the resources are there. Like he just needs to be able to pull it off effectively, and he can win.
Yeah. He's going to have to use the Conspirator to end up popping it. Okay. So we get to cast 2 of the draw 2 and make everything 1 cheaper. That means that almost our entire hand is free here. The big thing is going to be, are we able to proc the next landmark here? If we can proc 1 more landmark and get 1 more draw card, we're infinite. We're fine. We win the game because we have these solitary monks. But the issue is going to be getting to that point and looking at this hand. I think we have a pretty good shot at it. It's at 8. The time in a bottle puts us down to 6. 5-4 from Sonic Wave. 3 from the Rite of Calling. Replay for 2. It's so close. It's so incredibly
The
close.
spirit gives to those who listen.
Get
Ooh.
even the extra mana potentially just in case.
Oh, the extra mana is actually
Ooh.
so huge here. It's so valuable. We'll see. Top deck. Look like they picked the Akshan there. Akshan could be pretty good here. Keep in mind, though, Jansports has been passing this entire time. Has been holding up this Vengeance. And the Vengeance could be enough to stop the continued combo here. And if we do Rite of Calling, and target our Eye of the Dragon, we might just get screwed by Vengeance here. If Jansports rips the Vengeance, this sort of stops our combo. It means that we aren't getting an Akshan. And if we don't draw Akshan, we can't pop this Horde. It's such a huge point. Does Jansports
Ooh.
decide to rip it right now, or do we hold the Vengeance?
He
in? Didn't rip it. This is so huge. We have the mana now. We have 1 mana to be able to play out the attack here. Maybe it won't be enough, though. Okay, so we have to target
Yeah,
something with
who
our
knows?
Sonic Wave. But the Vengeance is still available. Oh, this is so tense. This is such an insane turn. If Shodox will actually be able to go infinite or not. If we had just a tiny bit more mana, it wouldn't even be a question. But because of how we had to spend our mana to go infinite, it's so rough.
Yeah, it's kind of the situation that was forced upon Shadows because of how quickly Janspers was able to fill this board and threaten so much lethal already. Like it's a tough situation because of what happened, but it's still something that Shadows I feel like has been playing well enough as of now. The egg damage.
Yeah, we do see the swing come through. And now we see the Akshan spell, and now the Vengeance that we've been holding on to might end up coming out. The swing did take down the Horde 1 more, right? So if we're going to win the game this turn,
So
it
the
would
punch, yeah.
come through Zillion, but the freeze? Freeze is okay. Because we still get the target towards our own unit, and we can buff up our Akshan. The choice to freeze instead of Entomb or Vengeance might just be the end of the game. Oh no.
Yeah.
Because we just popped our 3rd Horde, which means that we can play out a Solitary Monk. And the free Solitary Monk means that we can go infinite forever. Oh no.
No.
It's so doomed. Jansports had the opportunity, had the spells to do it, but ends up getting blown out by the Sonic Wave, and you just hate to see it. You hate to see it. Oh wow.
Yeah, and the decision, like I think that in Jansport's mind, the decision wasn't as bad in his mind, but he didn't expect the potential buffing coming through the action, and that's where he kind of messed up because the vengeance was there. We knew that it was there.
Yeah, it's just so awful because now we're infinite. We have the solitary monk gonna be able to pop everything up. We get to replay our auction. We get to replay the Zillion. We get to start just cycling these conspirators, and now we can draw every single card in our deck. Oh my god. Really an insane turn from Shodox, genuinely. We're gonna
Yeah.
spend the next like 5 minutes watching him jerk off here and just, play every single card in his deck. But keep in mind that the last like 10 actions of these turns have been so incredibly difficult and so incredibly well played by Shodox to be able to get this combo off.
Yeah, I
Oh,
honestly feel like this turn particularly showcased what like a lot of the things that you need to be able to play card games to a higher level, right? Like knowing when to attack, knowing when to uh, take some things slowly, knowing when to put out some things, but also the luck factor. Like luck is still something that you need to have in most instances, and being able to utilize it effectively here, Shadox to his value, just getting so much done with that turn.
yeah, no, that was such an insane turn. We see the Zillion come out, going to be predicting what your top deck is. You can time bomb to get that card anytime you want. So we know exactly what we're doing, how we're going to be able to continue this. Now, keep in mind, there was a nerf to this deck. You can only play the same unit 15 times in one turn before you're locked out from playing that unit again. So these conspirators have been played like 5 or 6 times already. So potentially could be an issue, but if we're just chaining time bombs, right, then it doesn't really matter because what's gonna happen is we're gonna play out a time bomb right here. Well, maybe not instantly, but we're gonna play out a time bomb, and then we're gonna Zillion to look for our next top deck as well. Or maybe we just keep shuffling. Either way, the point is that we have to win this game by playing 8 time bombs because we already used our attack token.
Yeah.
Time for a leap of faith.
Ugh. What a wild game. What an actually just wild game.
Like I kind of feel for Jansport because I feel like he also did what he needed to do with his Kindred at least like namely he hasn't yet lost legitimately because the Nex is still up, but like he did what he needed to do. It's just that kind of thing where you hold on to something way too long and that actually ends up affecting.
Yeah, no, definitely had the opportunity to be able to win this one, but unfortunately, ends up being a little bit more conservative with their spells there, goes for the freeze instead, and because of that, is going to just get ultra punished for it. We see the next horde popped. We see Akshan replay to start up another one. Zillion has shuffled so many time bombs into this deck at this point, and now you're just going to start seeing them come. Oh, we actually whiffed on the time bombs. That's interesting. It doesn't really matter because we get to draw 3 cards anytime that we want to. Right here, we're just making a little bit of hand space. We're getting rid of this Vakoran Vagabond. We're just probably going to end up overriding it. We don't care about that card because we have time bombs available to us, and that's the real prize here.
That's your body here. That's the whole thing that you're basing yourself on.
Yeah, just a cycle of time bombs, and okay, we just save the time bombs forever. We want to predict again, right? We want to play Zillion and re-predict here to make sure that we cycle these time bombs. We only have to find 8 of them, right? It's not 20, even though we've shuffled in a lot more than 20.
Then, or soon.
Yeah, maybe he's trying to be as like you're pointing out, like as sure as possible that he's not messing up because he is in a spot where if he ends up messing up anything, like he just ends up losing. So obviously he's trying to make it as perfect as possible.
Definitely the case here, but we have the time bombs. There's such a high chance for them to keep chaining into each other. We're going to end up seeing the awesome Zillion flip animation, which is exciting. That's something. That's a reward in and of itself, right?
Yeah, we get to value the amount of time that the Lord team put into making.
Yeah. But the time bomb chain should be determinant. We should be able to, because anytime that we want to, if we miss time bomb here, we could just predict for another one. Or if we don't want to predict for another one, we can like bounce our Zillion and then replay Zillion and predict for another one. It would take such incredibly bad luck to not be winning the game here instantly.
That can still happen, but yeah, it shouldn't actually be that much of a worry.
Yeah, the predict into a time bomb. Yeah, no, this one's slightly over.
Yeah, we're
But
just waiting for the inevitable, essentially.
yeah, keep in mind though, keep in mind. I know, it's an infinite combo. We're just watching it go off, but remember that Shodox played this turn incredibly well in order to be able to pop this off. This isn't just a combo that anybody's able to do, and really well played by Shodox, and now going through the motions just to make sure that we aren't accidentally dropping the combo here. We
Yeah,
might even see the promising future be played out to double up one of these.
Yeah.
And if we double up this time bomb, it does 2 damage. The one in hand does 3 damage. We just have to find one more.
If I'm not wrong, yeah. First thing coming out then. Like, yeah, it should be here.
Yeah, the replay from Zillion. We find the time bomb. We double up on the time bombs, and this should just be. I mean, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that if you didn't want
That's
to.
just
Shodox.
adding flavor.
Yeah, no, it's okay. Drawing cards is the most fun thing in this game. That is without a doubt true, right? So, just making sure. We have 4 time bombs in hand now, so we can just play them out. And that was a pretty insane game 1 here. The infinite combo really being shown to its full potential here through an incredibly strong hand from Jansports. It didn't matter. Shodox found a line and was able to come out on top in this game.
Yeah, I kind of feel like actually getting over
Okay, that's just unnecessary. That's just unnecessary. Come on.
Yeah, it's just a flavor to make the win.
He's a 2 HP. You don't have to do 20. You just play out the fucking time bomb. Shodox.
He's there. We're there. Yeah. Like we're there. Yeah, he surrendered. Okay.
Yeah, with like 10 more burn in hand, bro. Come on.
He was showing us the potential to just infinitely spam.
Yeah, he's like, by the way, I could have played like 10 more that turn, so it wasn't even close, buddy.
Kind of at the end though, I hope it doesn't get overshadowed, because yes, at the end we saw so much just spam and repeat and rehash things, but to not take away from how well Shadox had to play that. Like, it wasn't easy. He was in a really tough spot. He was unlethal. He had one turn to be able to turn it around completely, and he played that as well as he could. Sadly,
Yeah.
with some maybe a mistake or not enough vision from the side of Jansports to know that he needed to use the vengeance, but still playing as well as he needed to.
Yeah, definitely. Both players were in positions to win that game, and Shodox just ended up playing it slightly more cleanly. But we do get to see this time around the other landmark deck. This is going to be Thralls against the Iceborne Spiders, and notably, no Thrall in hand is turn 2. We'll see if we find one on turn 3. Do we get a landmark? And no landmark. Okay, these are the interesting games, right? These are the ones that we really want to watch for. How does the Thralls player end up navigating a game where they do not find any Thralls?
This is the tough spots that we maybe haven't seen yet. Shadows in the whole. Okay, there it was. Yeah,
wow.
We just had to say it, right?
It was nice while it lasted, right?
That's good enough. At least we could set up a potential narrative, maybe for later on.
Yeah. And I mean, the Thrall being slowed down by 3 turns is important. It does matter. Being slowed down quite a bit does matter, right? This means that Jansports is going to get at least 2, maybe 3 more attack tokens to be able to kill Shodox. So could be really valuable. We'll see what Shodox decides to do here. Probably, I would imagine you just kind of double up your landmark. Maybe drop like a ravine next turn. You have a lot of options available to you.
I feel maybe you get the extra health and another unit with the. Okay, he's not. I was thinking maybe you just go for the extra health and try and keep yourself alive for a little bit longer. But yeah, he just opts for putting it on the Thrall overall.
Yeah, we'll see. It can be hard sometimes to like ration your mana with this deck and make sure that you aren't being severely punished for tapping out. So deciding that this is the turn to be able to play out that 4 mana spell that kind of does nothing to impact the board for, like 5 turns. So
Yeah.
being able to sneak that in, pretty valuable. And then we do see the Tavern Keeper coming down, but the box, interestingly enough, the box being thrown out here just to apply a ton of pressure, try to get rid of the blockers. It means that this Elise is going to be uncontested on the next attack, and an interesting use of resources there from Jansports does keep them ahead in tempo here.
Yeah, and that's kind of the most important thing to keep up with this kind of most aggressive decks. Just keep up the tempo, try and make your opponent don't get the time to do anything, and then you get the value just by being able to continue the attack. Getting down another attack now to try and threaten as much as possible. Even though one gets blocked, it's still really nice. 7 damage already, 13. Like, the throw is still a little bit away, so it is an important turn for Jansport.
Yeah, definitely the case. Getting in the damage while you can. Notably, none of their units died this turn, so not able to play out that crawling sensation. Not going to be able to accelerate the Elise win con, at least not this turn. But Kindred going to be able to come down for free, uncontested, and we'll probably see something played out. We do see the Vile Feast. Ends up marking the Talia. Develops 2 different spiderlings, both of them 3/3s. Kindred eats the Talia, and Elise flips. That's a pretty okay turn.
Yeah, that was nicely set up by Jansport. I really like that, the way that he played that. Obviously, now getting so much of an attack potential in the next turn, but another Tavern to potentially buff you up enough so that you can maybe survive that attack.
It's gonna be hard. You're looking at what your opponent has. Just so many attackers available to them now. Let's see. So there's a line where if you play out Preservarium and hit Promising Future off the top, you can Ravine and then Promising Future the Ravine and clear the entire board. I mean,
Okay, what was a like? How likely is that?
so you have 2 copies. You
Yeah.
probably have what, like 28 cards in your deck. So being able to hit it, is like a 1 in 15, 1 in
Okay.
14. I mean, that's not an impossible. Oh, not quite
Yeah.
able to hit it there. Yeah, went for the line.
Yeah, well, you get an extra copy if you do play this Talia here. The problem is like the next attack is going to be huge. To not
Yeah,
say the least.
I don't think getting another Thrall is doing you any favors at this point. And the Ravine also only kills 1 spider. Maybe we hit like an Ice Shard off the top. Ice Shard could help out. If we had like an Avalanche here, Avalanche would be great. But
Yeah,
this is a pretty rough position to be in because there's a massive attack that you are staring down right now.
there's a freeze potential at least. Like, just looking at the top, like at least there's a chance to just freeze and take some damage away from that.
Yeah, we almost certainly have to commit. I mean, even double freeze right here just to survive. Because if we're taking, if you freeze 1, then you take 13, you go down to 2,
Yeah.
which then, an atrocity on any of these units, even on a spiderling, represents lethal. So I do think that you have to double freeze here.
To go
Double
for
freeze
both
puts
Kindred
us
and
at
Leaf, right?
6. Yeah, Kindred and Elise definitely kind of the only options, I think. Um, oh,
He went for just one. Oof.
ooh, making the call out saying that I'm
Yeah.
not worried about the atrocity. I have a little bit of healing here. I have another freeze in hand, so I'll be fine.
Look at
Copium.
close
Oh, it'll be
though.
all right. We are drawing 2 cards next turn, right? So the chances of
Yeah.
hitting like Imagine Possibilities to be able to pop both of those could be pretty good.
Another Preservary, man. Oh,
Clock Hand. I mean, Clock Hand could generate a Ravine, right? That
yeah.
could be kind of good. We'll
Like
see.
at least there's
Okay.
there's something to work around with here.
The issue is that your opponent is still much wider than you,
Yeah.
right? So even if you end up going for the Thrall's line, it's definitely a possibility, but you aren't pushing as much damage as you might like. And there's still a ton of damage being showed on the swing back, on the clap back from Jansports. I wonder if it's almost worth to go for the Ravine. Honestly, even if you high roll Ravine, with these clock hand spells, I'm not sure it's enough. Because your opponent has so much refill. Looks like we are going for the thralls. Oh, this got doubled.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot this got doubled. Oh, wait. Maybe we're fine. There's a lot of attack here.
Yeah, actually.
We're fine. We're fine.
And now all of a
Kindred
sudden it
spell.
becomes such a huge attack.
Kindred spell is pretty important here because it does end up pushing an attacker out of combat. But I totally forgot that that was doubled. Holy shit. This might be game. So we're taking what? 16 plus 7? 23 damage, and Shodox
Yeah.
ends up taking it down. The quick 2-0 in what I would assume would be a couple of unfavored matchups. We get to see the Kindred flip animation take us out, but
Shooting
wow.
his master essentially.
Landmarks are the future. Landmarks are now taking over the game. Quick 2-0 there from Shodox, despite not even the best hand in the world, right? It wasn't a super impressive hand, just able to survive long enough. And, you know, with the doubled thralls getting, 32 points of overwhelm, kind of good.
I'm kind of surprised. Like, I'm actually astounded with how it happened because it ended up being close to what we saw in the first game as well, where one turn essentially decided everything, and Shadows played it so well to try and make it happen as well as he could. Really nice defense, really nice use of resources, using the freeze, not going over the top with mana. And we talked about how the throw, even though it came out late. So that could have been even harder for Shadows to play around, and he did it so effectively. Like, once again, putting himself 2-0. It's the second match he has won 2-0, putting his team on match point in the grand finals. Talk about being a clutch player for tonight.
Yeah, easy clap, apparently. Easy clap.
Yeah. And just like that, we're heading to a quick break. We'll be back with the last match, potentially last match of the night. Don't go anywhere. This has been really interesting to see. You will want to see how it ends.
Those cravers backstabbed me, deceived me. Never shall I tolerate their crimes again. Now let the hunt begin. Yeah. 7,000 souls scared and daunted, such a tale of woe. Not too long ago, this village was a golden scene of hope. Hold down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace, restore our glory to live forever. Yeah, bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer. Yeah. I am the light bringer. Now listen, fellow warriors, I ask you, should my campaign come to an end? There's way more to avenge. Wow. 50 million souls live in this realm without much hope. Not too restore our gloria to live forever. Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our gloria to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power. Lead us to order. I am the light bringer.
And we're back. I moved my camera, sorry for that. We are back for the potential last match of the series. Shadows has been doing such a great job at pulling his weight all over the two first matches, playing as well as he could. Now for the final one. If he can do it, it's a 3-0 with just the one player defeating everyone. That would be amazing on the first round finals.
Yeah, it'd be incredibly impressive, right? And Shodok's doing it with three decks that we haven't seen a whole lot of this
Yeah.
year. Tree, Infinite Combo, and Thralls. I mean, some of those are a little bit more common than the others, but definitely definitely would be an impressive run if able to do that up against Aichi. Just real quick though, we did end up getting an update on the third place match between the Lee Simps and Team Hydra that is currently 2-0 in favor of Hydra. So just a loser being left over, left trying to sweep that one back. Um yeah.
We're getting similar situations in both matches. It's one last potential player to turn it around. Will they be able to or will they not? But looking immediately at the grand finals, we have the decks that we know from Shadows, and now actually bringing the Warlords, the Ken and Ari, and Zoe. Already, so one that I think lost quite a lot of flavor during the duration of the turn of the league, and kind of has researched a little bit lately.
It's definitely an interesting deck, right? This is Targon's Peak. They're running 3 copies of it. It also notably is running 2 copies of the recently buffed It That Stares. It also runs a Voices of the Risen, so a little bit of spice in there, and the type of deck that can high roll any game, and sometimes you just automatically win because you played double FTR by turn 7, right? It's definitely a scary deck, but at the same time, if we're looking at this slow scaling deck that wants to ramp against Shodox's lineup, it's rough. It's really, really scary.
Yeah. Like you can maybe find value, but will it be higher than the value that Shadows has? It's kind of the question that I see when I see these three slow control decks against Targon's pick that you're pointing out. And it's Canary. I was thinking which one do you ban out? I think that the Canary makes the most sense. I was thinking maybe the Warlords would be a little bit worrying, but the Canary overall makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Ken Ari is of course an incredibly powerful deck. It's very difficult to beat, right? But keep in mind that this Silver Auction is favored into Thralls, is favored into Tree, and should be favored into the infinite combo as well. It has a lot of interaction, forces a lot of blocks early, so definitely a scary deck for Shodox to have to deal with. Sort of, a very different potential matchups here between Sivir, which should be pretty good into these landmark win conditions, versus the Targon's Peak, the slowest of all the landmark win
Yeah.
conditions. Really gonna have a lot of trouble, I think.
Yeah, it's not going to be the best of things. I feel like just by what you pointed out, potentially we may see the action Cillian getting banned away like we saw in the first series. Like
Yeah,
I feel like just that
I
control is so tiring to play again.
I think you have to ban the infinite combo here, just because like Sivir is pretty good into thralls and is pretty good into tree, and if your Zoe Aesol is gonna win something, it's probably gonna be into thralls.
Yeah.
So like I don't think that you're allowed to leave this infinite combo up. Yeah, and we see that ban come through. You got to watch Shadox play it one time, get the nut combo off, and be able to just cycle through everything. So you don't need to see it again, right? We'll be fine
Yeah,
without that.
exactly. I think that I had enough of Cillian action after that last game. It was fun, but that was enough fun. Like I'd rather not see it for now at least. And I think Aichi feels the same way.
Yeah, Aichi, their decks definitely would have a lot of trouble into it, but even looking at these other ones, the matchups are not favorable. They are not great for you. You kind of really want to snipe specific matchups. I think Sivir Akshan into Tree is a matchup that you want, and then Zoe Aesol into Thralls. And like just kind of hope that you high roll a little bit with your Zoe Aesol. It's kind of your main win
Oh,
condition. That's kind of how you're hoping to win these games. But it's an uphill battle and anything can happen. Aichi has been incredibly good all season for Stromboli, has gotten a lot of wins, has been just incredibly valuable for this team. So definitely a player that has the chance and has the ability to pull a reverse sweep, right?
and if I'm not wrong, one of the series that I most remember was that Stromboli against Frost Monks, where Aichi almost 3-0'd. So he certainly has been pulling quite a lot of his weight and has been able to do quite a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to pull it out today, being able to pull it back here, winning this first one, and maybe gaining the confidence to go the whole way.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, almost 3-0, did not 3-0.
Yeah,
I
almost
would say
3-0.
that there's a specific player on Frozen Monks that was able to, stand resolute and fight back
Almost
the
reverse sweep.
Aichi
He
wave.
almost reverse sweep. He was close as well.
Yeah, yeah, no. But we are gonna see the first game come up here, and it is the Sivir Akshan against the Thralls. And this is a very scary matchup. This is the type of matchup where Sivir Akshan is technically favored, especially if they find a rally. But if you don't find a rally, or if you don't find a particularly aggressive opening, it can be just so difficult to actually end up making it through. And thankfully, for the side of Aichi, for the Stromboli fans out there, we do see a rally in the opening hand and an
Yep.
okay curve.
Yeah, starting at least with a really nice rally. Also important, once again, Shadox not pulling an early throw. Quite important. You do have Alessandra and Talia at least in hand to maybe play around them, but no throwing.
I've got your back.
And we do see the Bright Steel put out there, just wanting to show as much damage as possible.
Okay.
Really take advantage of the Thrall's deck here. And with this open attack, kind of surprised we didn't see as Succumb the Cold come out there, but we'll probably just see Lysandra or this Thrall. There's a lot of options now. We have, very funnily enough, drawn into several Frozen Thrall generators.
Yep. Essentially, like he can just begin setting it up right now. Doesn't necessarily need to go super high on this turn and then look for it later on. But already putting the countdown at least down, he still has quite a few turns to work with. And he also has the potential to now get some health back with the Tavern.
And Tavern Keeper's a pretty good draw here. Also going to give you a Fearsome Blocker a little bit later on, so pretty valuable. But it looks like we're going for just getting those landmarks down, getting them ticking. And Lysandra's a pretty good blocker. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
is going to end up getting given vulnerable by this Merciless Hunter. So, not as good of a blocker as we otherwise might want, but, still pretty good.
Yeah, it does find quite good enough value, even if hit gets feared here. Like, you really don't need to force the attack, and just in the defense is probably going to be the where it's going to take the worst trade out of everything. But as of now, I feel like Shadox has a nice enough defense potential to not just outright lose the game with the next attack, right? Important.
Definitely the case, and kind of a bummer, looking at the hand of Shodox that we don't have an Avalanche here. Avalanche would just be so crippling. It'd be so huge, and even just the threat of Avalanche could be enough to deny the develop here from Aichi. But
Yeah.
it's such a hard card to play around because you know that your opponent's running 3 copies of it. You know how much of it is them not having it versus they're just trying to bait me into developing into it. It could be a massive blowout here. So Aichi has to accelerate the game. Definitely has to be pushing damage this turn. We'll see how they decide to go about doing it, and maybe just an open attack showing 4 damage for unblockable. That's like an okay amount. Maybe you're fine.
Wouldn't you like here to take the least damn amount of damage possible? Wouldn't that be better if you're a Shadows on that side? Like I feel like just blocking the well, he actually saves the blocker, so really taking it. But I feel like you could have wanted to take this be a little the less damage possible.
And you kind of, if you were gonna block, of course you can't block the fearsome, so you have to block the 2-1. So not a whole lot of options there, but saving the 2-2 as a blocker, potentially trying to play around a rally, right? Maybe you're just trying to save as many blockers
Oh,
as
okay.
possible.
That'll at least just thinking it in that regard makes, especially with the risk that you're now running less health than previously. Just putting yourself in a spot where you don't immediately die certainly helps much.
It does feel like one thing though is that we did telegraph that we don't have an avalanche and that we don't have a blighted ravine, because if we did, I think we would have just traded off our 2-2, right? So
Sure.
Aichi might be able to make the read on that and just develop all the way out and try to kill this turn with a rally.
Sorry, I was thinking maybe you force it Talia here with try and maybe get a copy of the thrall, but just saving the potential for the freeze, right? Like he's saving so that he can freeze and not die on a rally.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is either holding up this freeze or just healing face with the Tavern Keeper and having a fearsome blocker. Either of those could be really valuable next turn. If we make it to next turn, we can Talia this landmark and just get out 2 thralls, which would be really
Yeah.
valuable, right? Um, and could potentially just show lethal, or at least get you enough back on board to be able to win. And the rally being hovered here, we'll see if Aichi decides to go
It
for it.
is
It
going.
is the rally
Yeah.
cast. So now Shodox knows what's up, knows the game, now deciding on if they want to hold up this freeze. Do they want the fearsome blocker? What is your approach here? How do you want to survive through this turn?
He has to at least block. So at least force the block on one. I feel like you do commit the freeze because like you're pointing out, you just use it Talia later on and you get enough body out of that.
It'll be hard. The issue is if you do commit the freeze, potentially a little bit weak to some buffs, and also be interesting to see if Aichi just decides to go for the attack or ends up developing out
Oh, you see?
the 5-2. And we actually see the heal coming down onto Lissandra, deciding that maintaining that and getting access to the what's it called? Sorry, the top nexus worth it, or at least forcing out the waking sands here. But at the end of the day, Shodox only taking 2 damage, is
Yeah.
losing their board, but is trading down pretty evenly and has 2 thralls coming out next turn in a pretty okay position in a matchup that's otherwise pretty rough, a little bit scary.
Yeah, and I think quite important to point out as well the fact that you also were able to take away the rally. So taking that risk even away in case the next turn or something, taking away the rally overall really important. I feel like.
I think most importantly is that we still have access to this freeze. So even if
Yep.
Aichi, with all of these buffs in hand, is able to get a really big attack go off and try to push some damage on the side, this freeze is going to end up making that much more difficult. But the thralls going to be bursted out at this turn right here. Means that there's an awful lot of damage being stared down
Yeah.
right now. 16 overwhelm and no blocks committed from Aichi, deciding that maintaining board and trying to go wide is going to be their way of winning it. It is kind of their only option, but unfortunately, they can't go that wide. It's a rough position to be in. Feels like you're kind of hoping that your opponent greeds on their blocks and just doesn't commit them.
But I think that just like putting out the Lissandra next time or on this moment, that I feel like, yeah, potentially what will happen.
Yeah, the Lissandra gonna give you the tough Nexus, give you a unit that blocks pretty well here.
Yeah,
Makes the attack that much more difficult for Aichi. And Aichi, we're looking at the hand, we see only so many units. They can go 4 wide, but Shodox has 4 blockers. You have the Absolver in hand, but the Absolver isn't activated. No flip champions means that you aren't getting any overwhelm damage. And even if you magically were getting that overwhelm damage, there's just a freeze and a half just sitting in the hand of Shodox. And how do you survive through to the next turn? It's a question that Aichi is going to have to be asking themselves, going with the full swing here, trying to trade down the board, trying to get something going on. And right now, it's not looking great.
yeah. He just commits the block even with the extra damage that he may get from the Absolver. Like the freeze is still being in place, so important for Shadows. And once again, playing it as well as he can, try and put himself in such a winnable spot.
Yeah, Sharpside comes out trying to maintain a blocker at least. You
Yeah.
can get the favorable trade onto the Talia. And honestly, Shodox, if they wanted to, could just commit the freeze. Yeah, we see the Succumb the Cold come out and just say, no, I would rather hold on to my Talia, weirdly enough. And there is the Shen emote coming out. Shodox up 1-0 in potentially the last match here. Game point, match point right here. Just has to be able to pick up one more win.
Yeah. And in what a fashion, like 2-0 after 2-0, now putting himself on one last win to win everything. Like Shadox has been playing so well, and this was the deck that we were kind of feeling like scared with the throws against the Warders. And once again, Shadox just playing it so well, knowing what he needed to do, and now going, if I'm not wrong, it's Bandle Tree. Yeah, it's Bandle Tree against Warders once again. Like this should be such a good chance for Shadox and already getting the double Bandle Tree on hand. Like he's
Yeah,
going
the
to take one away,
trees
but
in
still.
opener are pretty good here, and this is going to be. Looks like we're queuing up the the Targon's Peak to start out with. Zoe in hand, as well as a couple of ramp cards, means that there is potential for Aichi. You know, maybe we can
Yeah.
get out an early FTR. Maybe that will be enough to be able to pick us the win, but it is a rough matchup, right? And that aloof means that no matter what, this FTR not going to be playable. If they're going to play FTR this turn, it's going to have to be a second one.
One quick thing that I want to mention, it's probably not that important or that valuable, but I just find it so funny that he mulliganed the 2 Vandal trees and still got the Vandal tree on draw. So just I just wanted to point it out because I found it kind of funny. But on the other hand, on other things, still I really like the hand from Shadows. A lot of ways to work with, and the mini morph in case something goes really bad.
Yeah, no, an awful lot of options, a lot of card generation. We can go wide here. We can start trying to force blocks out of the side of Aichi, make it a little bit more difficult for them to make it through here, but it's gonna be a super cool star chart committed. It does mean that our turn's a little bit awkward here. Just because we're gonna Tavern Keeper healed 0. It's rough. We aren't getting any of
Yeah.
our ramp off, and it's already looking not great for Aichi.
Yeah, already starting kind of harsh. Like at least he does have the avalanche of hand to maybe clear, but it's not the whole purpose out of this deck to just have a lot of units out, right? So it's not like you potentially get it super high value with that avalanche, but still, at least forcing something out with the Zoe, I feel like at least is still keeping himself there, even if it's not the best.
Yeah, it's an interesting position. The pass from Shodox, sort of saying that they want to play it a little bit more slowly. They're fine going out, and that is going to be the aloof travelers coming down, getting rid of the FTR. So no feeling the rush available in the hand of Aichi. But we do still have other options. And it's going to be the super cool star chart. Not having access to Avalanche or Ravine this turn is a little bit scary. I don't know what our plan's going to be. We also haven't played out any of our ramp. I don't know how we're winning this game. This is rough, especially since This Bandle tree is already at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with the Demacia coming down now. You're going to see
Yep.
the Avalanche clear out most of this board, but still 6 is pretty good. 7 from the Fizz. I mean, 7 on turn 5, pretty okay.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Even though the clear for the board is really nice, we pointed this out. Like you do not worry that much if your board gets cleared with Vandal Tree, especially because IG's deck with Targon's Peak, like it's not really about getting that huge units early on or that huge attacks early on. Like you're playing for time, and that time is something that Shadows wants to play around as well.
Yeah, no, it's not a great position to be in. You know, even if you're clearing out the board, like your win condition is not being furthered. Whereas Shodox absolutely is getting their win condition
Yeah,
furthered. They are furthered. They are feeling great about this board position. They are feeling great about their hand. And the Zoe coming down isn't accomplishing that much. We're turn 6. We haven't seen a Targon's Peak. We haven't seen any ramp come down. We've just seen some Zoes swing in a few times, and nothing being accomplished means that Shodock's in a great position. The telescope gonna mean that we get what, number 8? 7 or
yeah.
8?
If I'm not wrong, it's
Oh
eight.
my god. Let's see, it's Vandal, Shadow Isles, Noxus, Bilge, PNZ, Targon, Demacia. I count 7, but maybe I'm missing one.
I don't want to go over, but I think it is 8. Like maybe I'm wrong, but we're still missing Freljord. I'm 100% sure of
Yeah.
that.
We're definitely missing Freljord. Have we? Oh, maybe I missed Ionia from Kennen. I think I missed
Okay,
Ionia from
Ionia,
Kennen,
yeah.
so that would be 8. So yeah, it's just Freljord and one other one that I can't think of. Oh, Shurima. Yeah, it's always Shurima.
Yeah, it's always Shurima.
All of the Scorched Earth is so brutal. It's so mean. Because even if we, by some miracle, end up getting a Targon's Peak down, it could just get removed instantly by Shodox. Oh, it's such a rough position for Aichi. We do have the ramp coming through. If we play out a ramp card, we could play Aurelion Soul next turn.
Yeah, which overall at least would make it so that you have another win condition apart from.
Oh, we're
plus the
actually
target.
playing Ace Soul this turn.
Oh,
The
nice.
double Moonsilver gonna give us the Aurelion Soul out, which means we are showing some damage.
Yeah,
We are showing 10 damage right here. That's not nothing.
that actually worked out. Like it's still 2 turns for Shadows to be able to win. Still, it's 2 turns. So
You know, the issue is that this tree did just come down, is showing 8. So pretty good. I mean, okay, so we have the Aurelion Soul. Shodox can develop a blocker, because we kind of have to show lethal this turn, right? Such an interesting position. How do we do this? How do we show lethal? We develop the Great Beyond, but then
little, yeah.
your opponent can just develop a blocker.
He also has. Oh no. Okay, I was thinking he also has a minimorph, but no. Special.
You know, the Minimorph unfortunately not going to accomplish too much this time around. I assume that we just see like the Shrima card come out as a blocker. Yeah. We trade it away and then we put out our 10th unit next turn. And I mean, Aichi is just kind of really, you know, hands together praying that we end up seeing the seeing it obliterate come off of the Aesol this turn. We want to see a comet. But even if we see the comet, there's another tree in hand for Shodox. It's not going to
Yeah.
be enough.
There was a good chance that maybe he could work it out in this turn, but yeah, it's simply not enough.
If we hit Supernova, okay? That's the line.
Yeah.
We have to hit literally Supernova. Shodox has to play second tree right now, and we have to hit Supernova. That's actually just going to be the Spell Shield pop into the Minimorph, making sure that Aurelion Soul can't flip this turn. So even if you do end up getting the Supernova, it is playable. But we are just going to show lethal the Freljord unit. Cost 5 mana. That means that we can't play the Freljord unit and another tree this turn. Is there anything that we could hit? Anything at all?
Anything that can change this?
Okay. If we Sketcher into Dog, into
just accidental art.
I don't know, what can we draw? Anything? Oh, we can Entomb it? Just Entomb it, forehead? Oh my god. And Shodox, the quick 2-0, capping off the 6-0, not dropping a single game, taking
the
down
grand
all of
finals.
Stromboli by himself in the finals. Bandletree WinCon gonna be coming through here, and what an incredible run there by Shodox, able to pick up the finals win for Beautiful Gamers.
It's kind of hard to believe that it went just like that. Like, Shadow's playing as well as he can. He 3-0'd in a 2-0 fashion for each one. Like you were saying, 6-0. That's I don't think we have had that yet, if I'm not wrong. Maybe it is. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't quite seen the whole bracket. But still, like, for the grand finals, for the match that it's so different to other matches, to end up winning like this, that's really, really impressive.
Much pressure, right? Especially with
Yeah.
the way that Beautiful Gamers, they had played in the exact same group as Stromboli, right? And had finished lower than Stromboli, right? So even coming into this, I think that there's an argument that Stromboli has been hotter, has been doing incredibly well, but for Shodox to come in and just sort of shut everyone down, say, no, I'm just going to come in, pick up the quick 3-0. I didn't even need my teammates. I just have my landmarks and I am able to sweep this one. What an incredible line of play there from Shodox, just able to pick up every single series. Really impressive.
Yeah, it was great, and this actually accentuates or makes it better to see how different the finals are. And I like before this, I was coming from just the normal sport view because I quite enjoy quite a lot of sports, like normal sports, and just watching how teams play before and during finals is such a different thing. Like, it's such a different beast, mentality wise, player wise. Like, there's quite a lot of things that you have to take into mind, and it's not only who the best team is, but what do they bring to the table on that particular day. And that's why I said, even though this both of these teams have been really good, that Stromboli has been playing so well, like, grand finals are a whole nother beast. Like, you cannot just depend on being the better team. You have to be able to bring everything on the table, because if not, you will just end up losing. And that we just saw that happening. Shadows bringing his full A game, just playing the best he could, just doing everything he needed to do, and being able to take the grand finals at the end. Complete congratulations to them. And I think
Yeah,
we're getting an interview with them, with the whole squad.
the
Yeah.
whole squad coming in. It looks like we have Cephalopod, Henneke, Shodox, and Mr. What Am I himself. Appreciate you all coming in. Congratulations on being able to be the victors here, the champions of the first ever Runeterra Academy team tournament. How does it feel?
Hell yeah. It was
great.
a hugely awesome run.
Yeah, feels pretty good.
It was overall great. Like, don't get me wrong. I said at the start, I have a feeling that it's going to be a 3-0. I thought it was going to be Stromboli, but you guys played really well. Shadows, you played really well. Like, 3-0, 6-0. It's not something I expected at all tonight.
Yeah, it was just a regular gauntlet run.
Oh my
Ooh,
god.
okay.
I'm not
That's
gonna
crazy,
say
man.
I doubted, but I didn't expect a 6-0 either.
Wait, you all
Yeah.
doubted me?
I never doubted. I never doubted.
Uh-huh.
No, me and Seth from the very beginning were saying Shodox brought Infinite. He's just gonna 6-0 these fools. We get to watch.
Oh yeah.
See, it's
Yeah.
funny. I'm looking at going into round number 2, and I'm like, okay, he has the infinite combo, but he has to get that past like pirates and other incredibly aggressive decks. But it seemed like, no worry to you, just high roll the Iceborne Spiders player and just get through on turn 6. How'd you feel? Once you finally went infinite, because it was really scary there for like a turn or two, Shodox.
Yeah, it was super scary. I'm pretty sure I was at 3 life, so literally anything killed me there. Like, breathing on me killed me, atrocity killed me. Box was scary. Yeah, any form of removal like was super scary there.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
was super scary. You ended up maneuvering it incredibly well. Was there a reason that you ended up slow rolling lethal there for like 10 actions, or what's up with that?
Uh, okay. So usually I always play, even if I know it's lethal, usually I always play like optimally because it's just better practice, right?
Yeah, practicing in
Okay,
the
fair enough.
You
finals.
know?
I can get behind that logic. Like, at least it made me think that I really don't want to play bad because I'm just getting bored out of my mind. But still, I can get behind that logic.
I also thought about continuing, but I was like, no, that's too
Definitely.
much. I don't
Just
want to
running
keep.
up the score at
You
that
only had
point,
8,
bud.
man.
Yeah, I
Like,
was like, oh, I could keep going till I hit 15 limit on each card here, but it's okay. I'll just let
like
him go.
I think that match alone was more like, no shade towards Stromboli, but that match alone I think was longer than your last match. Your
It,
whole last
yeah, I was gonna
match.
say the whole. It was probably longer than the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't want to say the whole just yet because I'm not sure, but at least the last match I'm 100% sure.
hmm
And let's be real. They kind of took psychic damage from that match because Infinite got banned every time after that. They weren't dealing with that
Yep.
shit again.
I saw the copy pasta. Who told you about the mind control?
Hey, but you guys make it happen, and I feel like against Stromboli, or at least going into the grand finals against Stromboli, I think that, or a lot of people thought that it was going to be closer than it was. So going into the grand finals, how did you guys felt, and when you were able to beat? Although I think that maybe this is just for Shadox, and he was the only one that played. But how did you feel overall just going against Stromboli?
uh, Honestly, it was a bit scary because, like, yeah, for real, Stromboli was like a really strong team, and they were also in the same group as us. And I can't remember were they first out of the group or second, but they were up there, right? But yeah, they're really strong players, really great team. Uh, yeah, just at each win that I accumulated, I just felt better and better because I was like, all right, one's down, next one's down, one more to go. And then after that, I was like, all right, we won. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Stromboli is a really like scary team to prepare for, right? Because they have like a lot of
hmm
crazy ideas about what they're gonna bring.
hmm
But I think like when it came to the playoff format, we basically had the formula solved. I think it's really hard to beat what we were doing week after week.
We just
And I
kind of
think
stopped changing our decks, didn't we?
yeah, we
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
or
did.
at least you did. You just brought
Yeah,
Zoe
well,
Aesol
we were
every time,
always
right? And Lisa.
yeah, we were doing like the Lee Ari for What Am I, and we were doing some sort of Demacia lineup to counter scouts, and then
And then the
filling in
third
the
one,
holes with the
yeah,
third.
the third one was always like the mix up.
Yeah, I think for this week we really and that the third deck was the one that
I
you
mean,
were
the
on this
third
week.
deck's
I think we
6
really
node, and
Yeah.
like,
yeah, I think we figured out the third one. So I think after the finals we really we got this format down.
And how did you end up coming to landing on the Auction Infinite? I mean, this is a deck that obviously hasn't seen play for quite a while. I know that Shudux, you sort of took down DreamHack with this deck, but it hasn't seen much play since then. How on earth did you end up landing on that as the deck you wanted to play in the finals?
So we figured that they'd bring some sort of lineup to possibly counter What Am I? Because yeah, like we said, he brought the same thing over and over. And we know that they like to play uh I know Stromboli likes to play Darkness, and we knew Jan Sports would probably stay on the same lineup of Ari Lulu and Spiders because of the interview last week. Uh and we figured that there would also be another Darkness just because it's good into Lee. So we just kind of built the third lineup around beating control piles like that. And I was actually supposed to be on the triple Demacia lineup, and then
Exactly.
yeah, and until I said, oh, why don't we just like put Infinite as the third deck, and then me
Yeah,
and Seth will switch.
that lineup was originally gonna be double tree plus thralls, but we decided that we
we
could make
wanted to
it an
be
anti. Yeah, we could beat tree really really hard with because our thralls and then obviously the landmark removal in the Noxus version. We had originally a Freljord version there that kind of lost the Dreamer.
Mhm.
So yeah, replacing it with Infinite made that like a crushing like crushing matchup where uh like in addition to Darkness.
Yeah. Oh, also we were scared of them bringing Tree simply because seasonals.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay.
truth.
That just overall makes sense to me. Like, at least I can see the ideas behind your guys' decks and how you each prepared individually. Obviously, we didn't see it in full action, but each preparation step was the idea, and I kind of like throwing the curveball of the infinite deck just to try and make something. I don't know where, like, because I feel like if you just go full conventional, it probably doesn't work out at the end. Like having something there to add spice, I feel like it's always really really important, and that kind of sends me towards my next question or my question, because even though you did 3-0 the whole series, like there has to be at least a player that you were much more worried about. One that, with the decks that they built around, like could have taken you out, right?
Yeah, Jansports was pretty scary because it's more, I guess, aggro slanted, and that would be something Infinite struggles against. Thralls is like kind of okay, but still scary. And Banditry, you have to hope to like match their swarm with your swarm, and kind of get favorable trades. So I'd say Jansport's lineup was like pretty scary for me. But it, Seth was saying it looked like that we each had like a favorite lineup, and it was like first versus first, second versus second, third versus third. So even if I lost, ideally one of my would take out Jan Sports, and then he'd lose to Atishi, and then Seth would finish it off. But yeah, I'd say Jan Sports for me was scariest.
Even if we were trading, the way we got the lineups to work out, it looked like we were favored all the way down 1-1, 2-2, 3-3.
Mhm.
You boomed them on the ordering, out there high rolling them outside a game, inside a game. Way to go. So after this, it's the end of the tournament, of course. Are you guys excited for the next rendition of this for, RA number 2? Are you guys going to stay together, or what's your plans there?
That's a good
I mean,
question.
we
We can
haven't
start
really talked
for
about
season
it.
2, but yeah, we haven't. We're undecided whether we're staying together, but I'm sure we're all going to be back in the league next season.
It was
Let's
a hell
go.
of a run, though.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, since we won, Seth gets his nice new alarm clock. Just so you
True,
all
I
know.
did
Dog?
promise that I was going to buy an alarm clock with the money, and since top 4 we were in the money, I said we're gonna each win we get and the more money we accrue, I'll just improve the quality of the alarm clock that I'm gonna buy. So now I think it's like $100 alarm clock that I'm getting.
Damn.
Nice.
Never gonna be late again.
That's
Jeez.
cap.
In theory.
Well, again, big congrats there. And is there any shout outs that you guys want to make here? Now that you have the platform.
I mean, honestly, I feel like it was mostly an in-house thing. We definitely got like a little assistance. I figure everyone was talking to people, but I think this team came together really well in-house. We kicked ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems
We
OP.
did win, so
Yeah, we're pretty beautiful, pretty good. What can I say?
All
okay.
right. Well, was there anything else you guys wanted to say before we sign off for you?
Thanks to Runeterra Academy for having this. Thanks to you casters. Thanks to Stromboli for coming second and putting up some good games.
Yeah,
Yep.
this has
Yeah,
been awesome. Looking forward to
sure.
season 2.
Yeah, this is a
100%.
great tournament. Very fun.
Ooh, seasons 2. Yeah, we don't yet know when, but it's going to be really, really interesting. Thank you guys for being part of tonight's grand finals, of being part of tonight of Runeterra's first season. It was really great. I remember some games from you guys. It was really funny. It was really interesting sometimes, not gonna lie, but still, it was a great performance overall. To all the teams that participated, if you're watching, thank you for being a part of Runeterra Academy's first season. It was great having you all. Hopefully, we have everyone back. Beautiful gamers maybe just running next time with a Kuroko kind of idea, with the Generation of Miracles going different ways. That would be interesting. But before we go, Hirsch has an announcement. He write me. I hope he speaks, because if not, I will look dumb.
I mean, you already do that yourself.
No, I'm
No, I'm
great.
kidding. I love you. I
Rude.
love
Oh.
The shade towards his
Rude.
Oh,
casters.
no.
Wow.
I love you, TDS. Thank you guys so much for participating in the NA's first amateur league. Thank you for Metafy for sponsoring us. We will be announcing the dates for season 2 fairly soon, once Red and I actually discuss on a solid date. We hope to see a lot of you teams come back. We hope that this community just continues to grow. And if it wasn't for any of the teams participating, this wouldn't have happened. It's all thanks to you that we're able to do what we do. So I wanted to thank everybody watching and everybody participating. You guys are awesome.
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Back at you, bud.
Okay, but with that, now I think we can call it a night. a night and the end for the season 4. Now we will be back for season 2. It was a great pleasure being able to cast over some of these great games. I'm not the best at lore. I honestly don't know quite a lot, but it has been so great being able to cast with some amazing people. Ikato, once again, like yeah, here to my side has been such a great co-caster. Dom that sadly couldn't join us tonight, but it has been such a pleasure being able to be a part of this. Ikato, any words you want to say to leave with?
No, I think you nailed it.
Okay, yeah, I take that. So with that, thank you everyone for watching. Have a great night. Wait for season 2. I may be back. Dragons may come back, hopefully. And with that, we'll leave. See ya. Thank you.